Hi there, welcome back to my channel. This is Chris. I hope you're doing great. I am doing great because I'm going to be talking to you today about the newly released 23mm f1.4. This guy here is, in my opinion, one of the most important focal length in the lineup. The reason being, well, obviously it's a 35mm equivalent for full frame, which basically means that street photographers around the globe love this focal length, but it is also great for everyday life photographs. In fact, the X100 series has one glute to it, and the reason for that is because it's not too wide, not too narrow. You can really get close or far from your subject, and you get just the right amount of that you need to take great shots. Throughout this video, I'm going to show you samples and examples of photographs that I took with this lens. Obviously, these were graded by myself, so the colors are not straight out of the camera, but later on in this video, I'm going to show you some comparison between the f1.4, the old f1.4, and the f2 models, so you can see straight out of the camera how they compare. So yes, as you have noticed, I included the 23 f2. The reason for that is that while it is smaller, more compact, and it only opens up to f2, it is still 23mm, so it's the same focal length. I think this is great because if you're using a smaller type of body, such as an XT20, XT30, XS10, or an XE4, for example, you might want to have something a little bit more compact and less front heavy. If you're using an XT or an X Pro series cameras, you don't really care, I guess, and I think you might want to have that extra stop of aperture on your lens, and that's why I included it in this review. So if you own this one, or if you're trying to decide between these three lenses, you are in the right video. I'm sure you're dying to know what are the big differences between the new f1.4, the old f1.4, and let's also add to the mix the f2 version. So I'm going to tell you. First off, let's start with the weight. We're talking for the old model 297 grams compared to 375 grams for the new model. That is a difference of roughly 80 grams, so it's not a lot, but it is still 80 grams more for the new model. And the old f2 version used to be 180 grams, which is exactly half the weight of the new one. In terms of length, there's also a difference here because the old model was 63 millimeters compared to 78 millimeters for the new one. And that means a whole centimeter and a half difference between the new and the old one. And the previous model was 52 millimeters, which again makes a bit of a difference. So you have 1.5 centimeters between the f2, between the old one, and between the new one. So the new one is quite taller than the f2 version. As I mentioned, another big difference is the weather sealing. That was one of the reasons why I went for the f2 version at the time, because there was no weather resistance on the old f1.4. Now, I don't live in an area where there's a lot of humidity or a lot of dust, so to me, it's not a huge con to not have the weather resistance. But if you do live in an area, or if you're gonna go do a safari, or you're gonna go somewhere that's very dusty or very humid, I would highly suggest that you get the weather resistant lens. Like I said, the aperture ring was changed. One of the things is the click. So I find it way more clicky than... See, the previous one was a bit more loose. Obviously, throughout time and as you use it, it's gonna get a little bit looser. But I like the fact that it's a bit more clicky, which makes it harder for you to change the aperture by mistake. Also, like for the GF lenses from the GFX series, they added the little A here for automatic with a little button, which allows you to basically lock it in place and keep it on automatic. That is a neat little feature. I'm not someone that likes to shoot in automatic, but for example, the other day I was working on a project where a helicopter was lifting big poles to install LED lights on a soccer field. So you can imagine that was quite an operation. So I had to film that whole operation and I couldn't take photos as well. So the person that was there with me took the photos. So I set it to auto mode, and that was actually very good because for him, as he didn't know how to use a camera really, he could just point and shoot. So that is a neat little function. In terms of build quality, once again, the build quality of this lens is is similar. It's the same as the previous models. All the Fuji lenses really from day one, from the get-go, are amazing. So you're not gonna have problems anytime soon. I'm telling you, I've been using, for example, my 56mm right here, or the 10-24. I've been using them non-stop for now, I think 5 or 6 years, and they are just holding up like champs. So not to worry about that. One other thing I wanna mention is that the old f1.4 version was made in Japan, wherein the f2 and the new f1.4 are made in the Philippines, as for pretty much every new lens from Fujifilm. Now, is that a problem? No. Is that going to change anything for the build quality, construction, optical performance, and so on and so forth? No, it doesn't. I like the fact that it says made in Japan, but besides that, it doesn't make any difference. One thing you're going to notice is that the diameter of the new lens is different from the previous model. The new f1.4 is 58 millimeter in diameter versus 62 for the older model. So it became a little bit smaller. So yes, it's heavier, it is longer, but it is also narrower in terms of diameter. And the f2 version was 43. So that is a little tiny one that doesn't compare to the new ones. But if you guys have ND filters, or if you have already some sort of filter that you put on your lens, just think with the fact that it's going to be different. Enough with the specs, let's see how these perform in real life. So what I did is I compared the three, the f2, the old f1.4, the new f1.4, I put them on an X-T3 that I put on a tripod, same settings, and that way you can have something that is unbiased. These are the raw files straight out of the camera, so there was no color grading done on them, and here they are. So did you notice any major difference between them, be it in terms of contrast, sharpness? Let me know in the comment section below. I do know that the f2 version, like we already saw in the past, is a little bit softer when you get close to your subject. It was the same for the X100 series. So there, maybe it's one of the cons of being such a compact body. But otherwise, what do you think? For those that like to shoot film with Fujifilm, I did a little comparison with the three lenses. So you can see in terms of focusing speed, these were shot on an X-T3. I graded the log file, and this is how it looks. So I personally didn't notice that much of a difference in terms of speed or in terms of performance. One thing to keep in mind is the fact that the old f1.4 model is louder than the f2 or the new f1.4, also because of the linear motor that's more silent, more accurate and faster. But otherwise, if you're not going to record the audio from your camera, I don't think it's gonna be a major drawback or problem, but I let you guys judge. And if you want, let me know as well which one you prefer for filming and for autofocus purposes. So they made another huge step towards getting the full lineup up to date, up to speed with the latest and greatest. I think it was a very smart move from Fuji and a very needed and expected move, I would even say, because I mean 23mm is really is a classic. It's a basic lens that it should have almost been the first one that they would have to get up to date. And now we're waiting for the 56mm f1.2. I cannot wait to get my hands on that one when it gets announced and released, because I know it's coming. I am sure of that 100%. I don't know when, but I will be definitely reviewing that one when it comes out. So let me know what you thought of this new f1.4 version of the 23mm from Fujifilm. If you will upgrade from your old f1.4 or from the f2 model, what are your thoughts? Let me know, I'm curious. And like always, I see you in my next video. Stay tuned because I'm gonna make some great videos in the future. So subscribe if you didn't do it yet. Keep smiling, keep shooting, and I see you soon. Ciao.